Hello, hello, everybody, and welcome to the Triumphant Radio Show here at 108 Praise Radio, where we're always voicing the gospel. I am excited to see you here once again tonight, Monday night. I pray that your day was fantastic. I pray that you are in a position right now just to relax, kick your feet up, grab your cup of tea or whatever you're drinking, and dig into what we have to talk about tonight. It is going to be a phenomenal night. You can already tell if you are viewing right now. I have two phenomenal guests on my left and on my right, and we're going to get to them in just a moment. I'm super excited. I do want to give a happy Father's Day shout out to everybody that is a father. I know it was yesterday, but you know what? Father's Day is every day. And so we celebrate you. I celebrate all the fathers out there that are hustling, doing their things to take care of their family, their children, their daughters. Daddy duty, again, is every day. And so we just give a shout out to you and God bless you for your work. I want to make sure that you call into the show. We have a lot of information that we're going to cover tonight. It's going to be phenomenal. We're expecting your call. That's why I'm putting my earphones on now, because we are expecting your call. Our call-in number is 770-988-6461. Again, that's 770-988-6461. And so we're going to be having times where you can just call in, or if you have a comment or a question about what we're going to be talking about today, because it's some serious things. If you are in law enforcement, if you're an educator, if you are a pastor, I encourage you to listen to the entirety of this show. I believe you'll be blessed. I believe also that you'll have input that you will want to share with the people. I believe that there's something that God will even show you and give you revelation about those that you deal with every Sunday or during the week. And you'll understand as you listen to the show. So, hey, go ahead and hit that share button and tag the show to your friends, to your groups, to your churches, to your ministries, to your homies, and tell them to listen in. And I'm sure that something's going to be said or done tonight that you just don't want to miss. With it being Father's Day, I always talk about when there's a holiday or a season, there's also something released in the atmosphere, and it's about that Father's love. And so even if you are listening or viewing the show right now and you have not experienced that Father's love, you actually can. Even if you don't have a natural father, there is a Father in heaven who shows a love that is beyond our imagination, beyond the love that some of us have even ever experienced in our life. I mean, it's amazing. We can't even fathom the love that God gives us every single day. Just for the fact that we have the breath of life, He gives that to us. So I'm really excited about it. And so I do have a surprise guest that's going to be coming on to the show. And so we're just waiting to hear that surprise guest. And so once I get him on the line, I'll go ahead and get started with him. But I have two awesome guests here today, and I'm going to start with my first guest as I'm waiting on the show. Oh, well, hey, you know what? The surprise guest is on the air. Can you hear me, Willie?
Oh. Hello.
Hi. Y'all, that's my father. That's our surprise guest. Yay. All the way from the sunny state of California. My father, Willie, is calling in so I can wish him a happy Father's Day since I couldn't be there. Are you doing okay?
Well, yes, I'm doing fine, Sharita.
Okay.
And I'd like to say that, we're really proud of you. More and more, I'm enjoying the program each week. So that's nice. We're proud of you and what you're doing.
Oh, that's wonderful. Hey, well, I got to give props up to 108 Praise Radio team, Courtney and Jacosta, for their help and their support with this, Mr. Carlton, just everyone that has allowed it to happen so that we can just keep spreading the gospel. So I'm excited about that. Daddy, before you hang up the phone, I'm so glad you called, but I want you to answer three questions. The first question I want you to answer is, what's one funny thing that you can say about me growing up in California that you can remember or call for our listeners and our viewers?
Let's see. Something fun. I mean, there's so much. I don't know just how to pick one out. But anyway, I recall once, on weekends, I would do the yards and what have you, and then we would visit the landfill if there was something that we need to get rid of. And, of course, you and Byron always wanted to go. And you remember Crunch?
Yes, Crunch, everybody was a car.
Right. We we would get in crunch, and once we passed the pay interest, we would do little wheelies and, well, not wheelies, but fishtailing and donuts and what have you, because nobody else would be out there, just maybe one or two other vehicles. And you guys thought that was very funny, you know. In fact, you always enjoyed it. Always go fast, go fast, go fast.
Hey. And now you guys complain to this day because I drive my car fast. Look at that. But y'all were the ones that had me in the car. You was doing wheelies and crunch. Look at that. Too funny. Okay, let me ask you 2 more quick questions, Daddy, and then we're going to move on with our phenomenal show tonight. So thank you, Mom, for watching. What's your favorite part about being a father?
Well, I get a chance to, tell everybody what to do.
You know what? I'm done. Okay. Okay. All right. Honesty. Y'all understand why I'm transparent? You just heard it. He said he gets to tell everybody what to do. Okay, great. I'm going to move on to the third question because something else might be said that's going to embarrass me. So as a final note, and then we're going to let you California folks get back to your sunny weather at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. What can you say to encourage any father or dad right now, since it is that Father's Day week, as a final note?
Well, something encouraging. The only thing that comes to mind in raising a family, you do experience, even seems to me, I think, more difficulty sometimes or hardship than just ordinary. But I've learned that, once we be faithful and prayerful, be obedient, then things seem to work out, And even when we don't know the solution to whatever situation we're faced with, we just have to continue to be faithful and prayerful. And Lord always works things out.
That's awesome.
Keeping in mind, He's always in the situation with us. We're never alone.
That's good.
So
that's wonderful. See, Daddy, you're awesome. Thank you for encouraging the brothers out there and the daddies and the papas and everybody out there. And so we have released that spirit of faithfulness, praying, being obedient, and knowing that you're never alone as a father, as a man raising a family and children. And may the Lord bless all of you that are listening and watching tonight. You just heard from my father, Mr. Willie Lovelace, in the sunny state of California. Daddy, thank you for calling. I hope you have a happy Father's Day, Father's Week, and I will talk to you guys later. All right, if you're just tuning in, we're listening to 108 Praise Radio, the triumphant radio show where we're always voicing our gospel. We're going to dive right into our guest today. To my left, and to some of you that are viewing to my right, we have the awesome Pastor Derek Lockwood from Powerful Truth Sanctuary in Macon, Georgia. Welcome to the show, Pastor Lockwood.
Thank you.
So happy to be here with him. It's so ironic because he and I have traveled along with Passion for Worship Dance Ministries International. Internationally, we were on the radio in Canada at one point where we were able to share the Word of God and the gospel. And so that's been some years ago. And now here we are today in Atlanta, Georgia, here again, and speaking to the people about just the blessings and the favor of the Lord and living that triumphant life. So we're happy to have you today. Let me tell you just a brief touch about Pastor Lockwood. Not only is he the pastor of Powerful Truth Sanctuary, and a shout out to Pastor Cuffy in Macon, Georgia. He's a consultant. He's a father. He's a husband, a mentor. He's an educator. How many years?
34 years. 34
years, educator, principal, Atlanta Youth Academy. I mean, just some phenomenal details about this man of God, and you're going to see how we tie all three of us in shortly, so just stick with me. We've traveled, of course, to Africa before, and one story that I can recall in Africa was you really pushed myself and a couple of the other members out there to use our gifts. We didn't get any extra special training. We were just pushed out there to pray and lay hands, and I think I was having a conversation with a member a few weeks back about how we came face to face with some spiritual warfare within people. But if it was not for you and you coming to Africa with us and pushing us and training us, not for yourself, but for the entire team, we would not have the level of ability of understanding spiritual warfare in an international country as we do today. So we love you for that, the whole team. And so there's so much more that you've done, and I'm not going to take up all the time about us and Passion for Worship, but your influence not only in Georgia, but at the pulpit and amongst people is phenomenal. How do you do it? How do you do it? I mean, I guess it's a passion of yours.
It is a passion. That's unquestionably. But one of the things I think it starts is with a work ethic. I think that my mom has shown that you can do anything. You know, before the popular term that we have multiple locations of churches, my mom had a tagline for the churches that she pastored in Macon and Atlanta, one church in 2 locations. And that was, you know, she's did 40 years of ministry. So we give Pastor Emeritus Yvonne Cuffey a great big shout out for the work ethic.
Yes, Pastor Cuffey.
And the wonderful work she has done in the body of Christ. But it's more than that. I think you have to have a want to. You know, you have to have a want to do certain things great and do it in a well. Martin Luther King says, even if you just sweep streets as if they are like you're painting like Michelangelo. And so it's a part of who your DNA becomes, of what someone says about you. What would be your life sentence? What would be people say in one sentence about you? And so I think that's extremely important that we sort of internalize what has God put us here on this earth to do. And one of the things that I remember early on in my Christian faith was this idea that, you know, if you forget why you're here, you are really stumbling through the dark a lot in life. And so I pray that people discover why they're here, but also never forget why they're here also. So,
wow, that's powerful. And so ever since that we've known you, you've done a lot of work with youth. You've seen youth go from traumatic situations, from trials, from tribulation, and then to more victorious life, which is why I'm so excited when we get to my second awesome guest to my right. But what is it about youth that you love? You know, what is it about it? You know.
We often talk about our youth being our future, but I believe our youth are our present also.
I love it.
And what I mean by that is God allows youth to be a mirror in front of us that we can hold up and see how we're doing, whether it be parenting, whether it be loving, whether it be forgiving, whether it be all kind of different avenues that we can go down. And so youth are these great opportunity to tell us the truth, whether we like it or not.
Right.
They're very transparent.
They do. Yes, they are.
And so, you know, be careful what you tell children, because they will repeat it.
That's right.
And more importantly, what you model in front of children, and hopefully they will see that also. So I think youth are not only just our future, but they are certainly our presence and how God uses them to bless us.
Right. That's awesome. And you recently took a bunch of students to Alabama.
Yeah, I did. We just partnered with Paul Kids, which I serve as the board chair, and I'm so grateful to be able to be the board chair, recent elected board chair. And we took them to Alabama. And the main reason I want those kids to go was because we wanted them to see civil rights come alive. Right. We wanted them to see things. The most recent museum that's opened in Alabama, in Montgomery, is the Lynching Museum. And quite frankly, I've given it a nice title, but it is really about lynching and how this country has, if you will, lynched our people to the point. And so there's still, if you will, not, if you will, physical lynching, but there is, if you will, spiritual lynching still going on. And so we need to be able to help our kids understand what those things really are. And so we were able to take ages all the way from 4th grade all the way to 12th grade. And some people had a concern about our 4th graders, but guess what? Our 4th graders are living in some realities each and every day that they need to see, and they need to have context behind it. And so I was very, very grateful to be able to partner with Park Kids and our church and take some of our youth, and we came together and we spent a couple of days in Montgomery. Not only did we spend some time in Montgomery dealing with the heavy hitting of tolerance and lynching and civil rights, but we also got a chance to uplift them by going to Tuskegee, being on Tuskegee campuses, Tuskegee Institute.
Right.
And so we were able to bless them by all the things that afforded them, Booker T. Washington, George Washington Carver's home, and those kind of things. So I'm really thankful that I'm still driven after 34
Look
years
at that.
to continue to press on toward the mark of which the high calling which God has called me to.
And before we take our next caller, that I want to say, it is amazing, and I hope that there's some pastors on the line. If they're not, please call in, or you all share, because when you're a pastor and an educator and you can combine all of that, it is like an explosion of power and authority and of knowledge and of wisdom. And do you think that we as ministry leaders and pastors are doing enough for our youth, or are we in a give up mentality, or are we saying, hey, as long as you come as you are, you come to the church, you're good? What is there anything that we can gain from that? Any type of thought?
Well, my thoughts are twofold. One, I believe that there are pastors out there grinding and trying to do as much as they can to reach our youth, male, females, seasoned saints. I do believe there are pastors out there trying to listen and hear what the current trends are. God is still the same, but he does things and approaches things in different ways. And so, but I also think there's a pull back in the traditional sense that we think the church is still within the four walls. Church is not within the four walls as we see it today. The mere fact that we can do technology and have media and have Facebook and Periscope and Twitter, that gives us an indication that we're not, if you will, back in the 1930s and 40s.
Right.
So we have to be willing to do and embrace the idea that God says, I'm doing a new thing.
Yeah,
and
that's
so
good.
that new thing may be in all kind of different avenues. And our young people are facing new things every single day. Some of them are same old problems, whether it be rejection, whether it be feeling lonely, or whatever it may be. But I do believe there are pastors, and I'm not talking about just young pastors. There are pastors out there who have a heart for youth and have a heart for the people of God, that they can actually say, I want to listen, I want to learn, and I want to do better. And I want to be better than I was last year. I want my church to be better. I want us to be better with outside the four walls. And guess what? Then when we come into these walls, we have something to talk about. We have something to celebrate. We have something to have a victory over, if you will, just having church as usual.
Right. And I think that's wonderful, because there are truly pastors out there that embrace the youth. But you know what they need? They need the help of us. Those of us that are lay people, ministers, servers of the church, they need our help. Pastors need our help. And so when you can find an individual that is willing to combine not only their ministerial work with their educational background, et cetera, and be able to complete that goal for people, it's a powerful thing. And so I love the fact that it doesn't mean that you have to stop what your educational background is. I mean, God wants us to influence, in whatever arena he gives us. I want to check with the caller. Do we have Marvin Stansel on the line? Mr. Stansel? Marvin Stansel, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. I'm sorry, I had it on mute.
Oh, that's okay. Welcome to the show.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. I just wanted to say firsthand that Derek Lockwood, Pastor Derek Lockwood, I can say firsthand that he walks what he teaches. I mean, he lives what he preaches. I worked beside this man and watched him get up early in the morning and go pick up kids that did not have a ride to school. I watched him pastor to them at the school, mentor them all throughout the school. I can just go on and on with it, but I'm going to tell you, this man is a true man of God.
Yes.
So that's why I wanted to just chime in and say that real quick. Yes.
You know what, Mr. Stansel, thank you for your call, and we need that confirmation from the outside, because we may know it, but we have people that are watching and listening, and we want to just tell them this is really authentic and genuine work. When we talk about serving the kingdom of God, despite whatever traumas or trials that we may experience as individuals, and you still press on, you still get up and help the kids, you still plan trips for them, you still go out of your busy schedule to make sure that they at least have the exposure. Now, what they do after that, we may not have total control over, but when we give them that exposure as a pastor, a leader, an educator, that's an awesome thing. And so, one thing when we talk about mission work and so forth, and Mr. Stansel, I thank you for your call. When we talk about mission work, we, and of course we've gone international before, but mission is not always outside the country.
That's right.
Mission is also right here in whatever state you live in, whether it's Georgia, California, wherever it is. And so it is amazing that you have done some work with the gentleman sitting right to my right, Mr. Dan Butler. Welcome to the show, by the way.
Thank you for having me.
So happy that you're here. I need you to tell the viewers, how did you connect with this gentleman right here? And can I say this? I'm going to spoil this part. This is the first time they've seen each other since their first contact. On this show today, here at the Triumphant Radio Show, this is the first time. We're making some moves today.
That's right.
Let the audience know how this happened.
It's interesting. I was doing some work at my home, and I'll let Dana chime in because he's actually the one who made the call. I received the call. Gosh, it's probably about a month. We've actually been talking on the phone, and I was at Home Depot's parking lot several weeks back, and a young man called me late in the evening and told me, you don't even know who you're talking to. And he gave me his name. I immediately knew who he was because I taught him in the 7th grade back in the day.
Wow.
And what brought tears to my eyes in the parking lot was that he said, Mr. Lockwood, I want you to know something. When I talk to kids today, when I talk to people, I hear you talking through me. When someone says that, that is like a bombshell that goes off on the inside of you. That's what probably every father or a person who's mentored someone wants to hear, that what we've sown into you actually is coming up out and through you. So I'll let him just talk from there. I get full when I think about it, because that's a confirmation and, quite frankly, a validation of the kind of things that you try to do each and every day. I just call it grinding for the Lord, and and it's important that we continue to do that. So, Dana, I'll just let you jump in, man, because I'll get talking.
Awesome. It's ironic because Sequoia is actually right around the corner.
That's right.
In 7th grade, that's where I was at. A young teen who was just simply trying to find his way. And as a teenager, you're not always conscious of the things that people are trying to expose you to or trying to teach you. Sometimes it takes some bumps and some bruises, and sometimes it just takes that maturity for you to be an older person. Because I heard what he said when I was in 7th grade, and I understood what was going on. But it wasn't until I became a man myself that I actually realized the impact. And then, over the years, I can hear him. I hear him. I hear Coach Nord. I hear Mr. Lee from Cohen Middle School. I hear there are men that have instilled something in me, and I wish I had listened to him, really sat down and followed this dude around, because I probably could have, reduced some of the trials and tribulation. But even within that, it's made me stronger. And it's given me the initiative and the audacity to go out and talk to those people who see a little bit of Lockwood in myself.
That's awesome. So if you're just tuning in, you're listening to the Triumphant Radio Show, and I have two awesome guests here, Pastor Derek Lockwood and Dan Butler. And these two have known each other since Mr. Butler was in the 7th grade. He was the educator for Mr. Butler at that time. And so it's amazing because this is their time gaining face-to-face contact in years. And what is amazing about this gentleman to my right, let me tell you some great things about him. He's a certified anger management specialist. He's a case manager for at-risk youth. He has his own business. He's an author of books, just doing a phenomenal job in life. He is truly living the triumphant life. But let me tell you, there was a trial that happened in his life.
That's right.
There was a traumatic period that happened in his life. And so there were some setbacks and some mistakes from that point of 7th grade up until, and you'll let us know, 19, I believe, years old?
The age of 19, I was arrested for armed robbery. And I like to say that at 19, I got the bright idea to rob a grocery store. But unfortunately, that's not how it works. It kind of, just like anything else, it started off with breaking in lockers.
Right.
In the cab counter, we got a little split in them lockers, and that's all I needed. And it started there. And you get away with something, and you just keep going. It's like, okay, so now I stole the camera from photography class. I got away with it. In my mind, I knew I was always smarter than the average person, but it just I wasn't channeling that talent or that gift in the most effective manner.
Right.
And so when you catch somebody who has a lot of ambition, a lot of audacity, but doesn't have a vision as to what it is that they really want to do in life, then that person can, sometimes you catch kingpins, drug kingpins who rise to the top of whatever it is that they're doing, or people in all walks of life. It's in you, God. It's instilled in you. It's just all about what floor you're going to dance on.
Right,
and so I was in a place in my life where I just didn't know what to connect to, and I tried different things. Like at one point in time, I thought it was sports, and to this day, like I'm 6'3", and it looks like I like basketball, but I hadn't watched. I don't know. I don't know who's playing because it's not of interest to me.
Right.
But there was a time where I pretended to like it because that's what the people, my uncles are 6'3", 6'2". These are big guys, and the girls like the guys who play sports.
Right.
When in all actuality, I like the violin.
Yeah.
But
Hey,
I couldn't take the violin home without being ridiculed and talked. I didn't know who I did not have an identity. But
come on.
there are certain men that when I was in my darkest place, that I can continue. I could hear their voice.
Right.
And
Wow.
And Mr. Lockwood was one of those people. And I was finishing my second book. I'm finishing up my second book, and I heard him. I hear him all the time when I'm talking to kids. But I was like, man, these men tried to tell me, they tried to show me the right way, and it just broke me down. And I'm tough. Like, I'm tough. But it just broke me down because I was just like, you've always had men there who actually cared, who knew I didn't have the best clothes, but he knew that I was going to do my homework. And so I couldn't shine with the new pair of shoes, but he would call on me, and it would make me look good in front of the females. But I didn't understand what he was doing at the time. But it gave me something to grab onto, and I said, you know what? I was in my darkest hour when I was like, I ain't got no new shoes, but I'm almost the smartest person in the room. Guess what?
Look at that.
I'm gonna run with it, and I've been running with it. And it's instilled a certain kind of confidence within me that even at 41, I'm just like, okay, well, you're gonna say what you're gonna say, but guess what? I'm mentally stronger than most people, so I'm gonna keep going, and I'm gonna ride it out. But then, what's important is that I can't hold that treasure. I can't.
That's right.
It's my responsibility to pass it upon those. If I don't, then that trial and tribulation, that lesson, it was worthless. At one particular time, Sister Martha got bit by a dog, and she got hit with the water hose. She did not know what she was doing, but she went out there and she went. She went. But she did it so that I could have a certain kind of peace. And so I have a responsibility to those people. I gotta get hit with the water hose.
Look at that.
I gotta get bit by the dog. I gotta do my part. This is a chain. And if I could just hold my link together and do my part, I may not see all of the victory, but I gotta do my part. I don't even care about seeing it. I gotta do my part, or I can't look that guy in the mirror. I can't look my daughter in the face and say, Daddy's doing what he's supposed to do. It just doesn't feel right. It doesn't sit right.
I love what you're saying. Did you see any signs with him at that young age that there were any possibility that he may detour into any criminal behavior?
No. As a matter of fact, he's right about the idea that he was very smart. But the thing that I found, he was also challenging. And so he challenging. He didn't have necessarily mentors in his life at that particular point, as I can remember. And so he was one of those ones that you attach yourself to. I not only taught, but I coached. I led activities. I led some of our committees and things of that nature. So I tried to help
snatch you up too.
Yeah, I would snatch you up, and that was back in the day when you could snatch a kid up, you know. And that was important because they needed to know what that fence line was.
Right.
But I loved on them also. I challenged them. I want their brains to be just as good as their bulk or their strength is. And so, you know, we need, quite frankly, less athletes and more Paul Robesons.
Come on.
What I mean by that is we need men who are multi-generational, multi-talented. Now, not only are they, if you will, and ladies, not only are they singers and, you know, they can dress more nice and be athletic on the basketball or football field, but they need to be, if you will, he's talked about being a violinist or a thespian or someone who can speak well or look someone in the eye and shake them in the hand and know that they don't come from a legacy where they have to look down all the time.
Right.
And so I think these are things that we try to instill across the board when we're talking to young people. And quite frankly, as we've raised a generation, we're talking to parents now who still suffer from this today.
Right.
Because there is a generation of parents who literally have not been church, have not been mentored, have not had a father, or if you will, a great role model as a mother.
Right.
And so we just assume that it's always dad. It is a lot of times dads and fathers, but there are a lot of young ladies who are searching for that understanding of what it is to be gentle and compassionate, and those kind of things too. So yes, to your question, I saw some things in him, but also I think that he is a great example of the idea that if you will love on the ones who seem to be the most unloving,
come on,
you will find the great dividends down the road. And so, I'm challenged each and every day to, God, what are you saying to me? What are you saying to me? How can I be a better man than I was yesterday? And he talked about being broken down. The Holy Spirit will break you down.
Yeah.
He will lead you into places and thoughts of where you are and where you want to be. And so I'm thankful that I'm connected to a God who's not something that I can't touch or feel, that I literally can have that restoration each and every day if I seek it and I ask for it. So
that is phenomenal, and I'm going to keep going with you. But if you're just tuning in right now to the show, and I want to give a special shout out to Ronisa, Kelly, Carolyn, Monica, my sister. I know you said hello to Dad. Racine, Charlene, Brenda, Minister Geneva, thank you for tuning in. You're listening to the Triumphant Radio Show here at 108 Praise Radio, and we have two phenomenal guests tonight. Not only a pastor and an educator, but we have a business owner, but the pastor, educator, taught the student to my right, and the relationship is just so phenomenal. You'll have to go back and check the replay of the show. But one thing that was said was, I love the fact that when we think about as pastors and leaders, that there is prayer that we think sometimes doesn't get through. Just how you talked about sometimes you have these men, these mentors that were around you, and you may not have grabbed hold of that at that time. And that happens. And I want to encourage somebody with that today. If you're a pastor, a leader, even if you are in law enforcement, as a former law enforcement worker, and you're trying to, help people to get to a particular place, sometimes people don't see things at the time you're delivering that product. But if your heart is right and your motive is right, and you really want to see change, advancement, elevation, keep doing what you're doing. Mamas, keep praying. Daddies, keep praying. Keep doing it, because the manifestation of those blessings and the manifestation of that new beginning is on the way. And that's when you say, I believe in the power of prayer. And that's when you have that belief system and you have faith about what you're saying to God, then you know it's going to come to pass. But what happens is we damper that, or we quench that process by throwing in something negative from our mouth, like, oh, they're not going to do anything, or they're just that, etc. And that leads me to my next question for you, Dan, is one thing that you wrote in your bio on your website was, it was written that you returned home safely. You had spent 10 years in one of the worst prisons here in Georgia, Alto State Prison. And when you came back, you had a different outlook as well as an effective support system. And I've noticed when we hear people talk about going through the penal system, they talk about the fact that when they get out, they don't have a support system. I've been able to be around those that do and those that don't. Tell us what that meant. What was that like for you, having a support system upon your release? What happened?
That's a very interesting question, because it didn't just affect me upon my release. It was when I went into the door, when I got my time, because of the way that my family is, the way that my mother is, even when I was getting my time, she was just like, you know what? I was in trial. We were going to trial, and I was like, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to try to. Then it just came. I was like, you know what? It's time to man up. Like, you did this. You did everything that they said that you did, and now you have to take responsibility for that. You can't keep playing around. If you want to do right, and this is my whole thing was, I can't pretend with God. I got to tell God the truth, because I want the truth from God. So I can't be saying, well, I want you to bless me on this, but I just did this little robbery, so we're going, oh, no, you know what? I did that. What's give me my medicine for that. Right. So my mindset was different. And so when I went into the system, I didn't go into the system like I'm going to do 10 years. I was like, I'm going to be 10 years stronger. I'm going to do 10 years worth. I'm going to read 10 years worth of books. I'm going to be something that when I get out, I'm going to keep so many people out of this place.
That's right.
It's going to be counterproductive. And so with my release, what took place was this, is that my family members were there But it wasn't just them. It was it was people who had spoken to my life prior to me even going there. I just could not hear them. And once I was in that place, now not just Mr. Lockwood. It's a lot of people that, played their part. Dr. Panetta from UGA, they brought the debate team to Alto State Prison. And so we didn't have computers, but they brought in all the books, all the magazines. So we debated on their schedule. If they debated abortion, we debated abortion. Okay, so Dr. Panetta comes in and he says, well, you're going to argue the affirmative for capital punishment. Okay, so I believe this, so I'm going to argue. It's not hard. I come up with all my statements or whatnot. But then 2 weeks later, he comes back and I have to argue the total opposite of everything that I just argued. And then what it did was it caused me to question everything that I believe. Everything that I believe. So now I just went from understanding that it's not the world against a little black boy from Decatur. Man, the grass is so much greener. Right. And then so my freedom was, I was free before they let me out.
All right now.
You see what I'm saying?
All right.
Because I had an understanding. I was getting closer to God. I was reading. I was exposing myself to the things that Mr. Lockwood was trying to expose me to years ago. But I was not in a place of peace. I was not, it wasn't quiet enough. So when I came home, I had already finished the book. The business plan that I took in class, I came out, I started that business. I wrote that book. I did what I said that I was going to do. I said that I was going to be an asset to my people to the day that I die. I'm going to be that. I'm still learning as we go along, but it's important to have a support system, but you got to grab onto some of the jewels and the seeds that people have already planted into you. And to the people that are planting those seeds, somebody's always listening. Mr. Lockwood always operated from a position of integrity. That is what I can say. So when I thought about him as an individual, and I could mold, whether it was conscious or subconscious, I was molding myself after men in my community. I did not know, but then when I came to that realization, I was like, it just broke me down. I was like, man, you sound like Mr. Lockwood. You sound like, man, I had a kid that was on my case, so I was like, man, pull your pants up. And then he was like, Mr. Butler, such and such, such and such. And when I grabbed him a little, I didn't do not too much, but I said, hey, man, look, man, first of all, I love you, brother. You know what I mean? And in reference to the conversation, I started, tell me what's right with you. Because I know what's wrong with you. And that's where I felt like I had peace. Whatever was going on, even though I had the same shirt on I had on yesterday, I got the answers to all the homework. So I'm good to go. I'm gonna shine in Mr. Lockwood class. I ain't gonna be late. I'm gonna try to stay. I'm gonna shine in here. I might not shine when we're in the gym. I'm gonna shine right here because I did my homework. And he's going to capitalize off that. He's not gonna say nothing about the nappy haircut. He's not gonna say nothing. Now, if you smell, he's gonna take you to the side and talk to you, but that's what men do. But the overall objective, what I got from it is that I have a certain amount of intelligence. I have that. And once that was instilled in me, it was like anything else is possible. I can do anything. But I have to understand that much about myself first.
Let me ask you something, because I think I want to jump in. I know we have a host, but you said you were free before you ever were set free, which is a mouthful for a lot of people. It's a powerful statement.
Yes.
There are so many people out there that are listening and maybe listen to the rebroadcast, that are still feeling like they're locked down, they're in prison, they are in a invisible prison. What would you say to those folks who have to have that kind of mindset? Because you summed up what we're trying to share with people on a regular basis. There are educators and teachers out here who are trying to make sure that young people don't be imprisoned by their environments, their home environments, the way they brought up. You know, I'm used to having dads in prison. I'm used to having moms don't come home. I'm used, so we don't allow that to be a barrier when we're talking to students in a regular situation. You overcome that because the Bible teaches that you can overcome. Would you have anything to sort of add to it?
Oh, without a doubt. Just in reference to being free prior to my release, that freedom is going to come from a number of different places. One of those places is going to be, without a doubt, one of those places is going to be honesty. Because if you can't operate from a position of just being honest with yourself, this is what I told myself, that I suck at breaking the law, clearly. There are other things. God has given me other talents. It's not running up in the grocery store with a firearm. I suck at it. So what am I good at? Let me add a little bit more to my fire. Because once I began to gain that confidence and I started seeing certain things as they are, not as to how, no disrespect to our parents, but how some people who have not been fully informed themselves, they pass upon these burdens on you, like, you can't do this, you're not able to do that. Are you sure about this? And then it's a situation where you actually, once I began to look at the system for what it is, the prison system is a business, whether we know it or not.
Oh, yeah.
It's a business.
It is.
Those people who are not adequately educated are more likely to end up in prison. Thus, those people who complete their first year of college, they're less likely to go to prison. So in my mind, I was like, the more books that I read, the further away from prison that I actually become. That was my mindset. And I think that in order to have that mindset, you have to have certain seeds that have been planted.
Right.
And I had those seeds. I was free because I knew what it is that I was going to do. It's a lot of people that they get out, they're out now, they're still not free. First of all, the United States has the highest percentage of recidivism in the world.
Right.
That means that people come back to prison more. They expect people to come back to prison, but our
Right.
society is set up that way. Since slavery ended, what took place was the number of prisons that are being built increased every year. Towns are built around prisons. So there, just like certain sicknesses, there is no money in actually resolving a person's interpersonal problems and helping him stay out of the prison. The goal is to have it a reproducing door that brings you back every 3 to 6 months. That's the way that it works. People get paid because of this. If you go in and you actually fix the people who are in the prisons, what takes place now is the face of the United States changes, because these people who have been doing this, your mom was a CO, your dad worked in the system. You got to find different ways of income now. And then when you go in, you take somebody that's broken, you start to build them up, and you show them that they can have an effect on the world. Guess what? They actually change the world. So now I don't want to give them too much freedom. Let me put them on some probation. Let me put them on some parole so we can bring them back every couple of years. But once you are able to embrace the fact that you have the power to move the world and to change things, then that within itself is prison. It don't matter about the walls that's around me. I can move all that.
Right. If you're just tuning in, you're listening to the Triumphant Radio Show here at 108 Praise Radio. And I mean, what we are hearing some phenomenal information. And you still have time to call into the show at 770-988-6461 to ask a question, make a comment. If you are an educator, we want to hear from you. We have two people in the studio that not only deal in the education system, but they're dealt with the penal system, and there's so much that we can gain and gather from one another. There's a mindset, I think, that needs to be tapped into to see how do we really embrace those kids that may not look, appear, or act how we want. Do we stick with them? Do we let them go? And then once they have gone beyond and done better for themselves in years to come, do we still embrace them, keep them close to us, or do we let them go? That's also a question. If you're a pastor, a ministry leader, and you're operating in your church, there are people in your congregation today, every Sunday, every Wednesday, everything that you do that have dealt with or maybe dealing with the education or the penal system, and that need something from you. And so it's really important. We have prison ministries in our churches, you know, and sometimes we go to the prison and we do a word or a prayer, etc., which is good. But what else can we do as the world has been evolving with all that's going on with the teen rate, the shootings on the campuses, the killings, the black men murders? There's so much going on right now. How have we, or should we, adjust our strategy to keep saving our people, ourselves, or to keep the momentum, the thirst going, to keep plugging away, to make sure that we keep imparting into one another to stay strong?
Let me try to address that question in a general way. I do believe that there are one particular area in which I think churches, we have done a poor job. We don't allow our churches to become 24-hour centers. You know, there's been a lot of talk in educational where there are some schools, because of overcrowding, where schools run a day and an evening program. Some of them run it in late nights because they're adjusting to how life is in those certain districts. And we could be the same way within our churches, not afraid of the people, but making sure that there are programs and opportunities where even in the evening, Churches buildings typically close, and they're the most closed buildings typically throughout the week.
Yes.
That we could have not just an after-school program, not just sports programs, but all kind of other opportunities. It's one of the visions that I have for Powerful Truth, that we actually become more of a 24-hour, if you will, center. Some of it could be paying for itself. I mean, the church is a body, and so we can move that body in certain directions, and I believe that that's part of it. A question was asked a little earlier, or at least brought up, do we encounter a lot of students who have low self-esteem?
Yes.
Well, I often say this, and if you've been a student of mine and over the years, especially the last 20 years, you will hear this statement: you can't be what you can't see. You cannot be. The reason why you want to be a doctor is because you saw that white coat when you were a little kid, and you saw that you want to be a lawyer. You see the lifestyle that they may live. Don't hate on that person.
Right.
Don't hate on that person who's out here doing it and doing the great things that they're doing. Try to join the party, join the bandwagon. Try to get to learn from that person.
Right.
We were talking earlier. You know, it's interesting. I want to talk to the person who owns the subdivision, not just living in the subdivision. Because guess what? The person who owns the subdivision can tell me how to, if you will, own a subdivision. I don't want to talk to just someone who works at the bank. I want to talk to the person who owns the bank.
owner.
Because guess what? He may tell me how to, if you will, leverage my money one day to, if you will, do something else. And so I think it's, again, we can't often be what we can't see. It's important for us to put people in front of others that actually we see an example in front of them.
Right.
You know, and I think that is extremely important as we think about doing things differently, opening our doors. People are just people. And if you travel international, you will find that. You will find that people are just people. You don't have to be scared of the African. You don't have to be. As a matter of fact, if you really want to learn how to worship, let me put a challenge out there. Go to Africa. You'll learn how to worship God. Because guess what? That's what they do. I mean, and they know how to praise God beyond measure. So that's one of the things I was just, and it's not a stereotype, because what we see in Africa is flies and babies and starvation and disease. But there's a beautiful part of Africa that you never get to see because it's not portrayed that way. To Dana's point about how we let the media tell us, we ought to be telling our own story. And we need to be telling our own story to our kids and how those things affect them and the history and also how we go forward. So I'm going to stop right there.
That's right. We do need to be telling our own story. One comment that you made, Dana, was about, you went into the system 10 years, but it was 10 years that made you stronger. Your freedom came from God. Did you have a relationship with the Lord prior to, or when you got into the system, or how did that come about for you?
I think that just being real with myself, because there are times where you don't really know God. Like, Mama made us go to church, and when I nodded off, I got tapped on the back of the head. We lived out in Virginia. My grandma's house was right behind the church. My grandpa was the janitor, so we was there every Sunday. I wasn't paying attention. I was just trying to stay awake. And then even when I got to jail, because now I was so slick, I was like, you know what? When I get out, I'm going to rob this person. I'm going to do this, and I'm going to be back on top. That's how retarded I was. That's just what my mindset was.
Right.
But then when I was in the system, I was just like, you're weak, and so you should not be eating as much as you're eating. So I'm going to take advantage of that situation because I'm smarter than you, I'm bigger than you, and I know more people than you, so the lunch is on you this evening. Wow. And that attitude got me in the hole. And when I went to the hole, the only thing that's in that hole is you and that Bible.
That's it.
And when that was it, I had no more distractions. There was no marijuana. There was no alcohol. There was no TV. There was not a window. And when I tell you, that is the closest that I've ever come to any being in my life. That's where I wrote my first book at. That's why I decided that, you know what, I've been approaching this life thing from obtuse position. I don't want to do this no more. I want to know what it is what is my purpose? I don't have the answer. Right. What is it that you want me to do so I can get on it and I can start doing it?
Wow.
It's just that simple. And once I operate from that aspect, things are a whole lot easier because I'm good at following through. I'm not the bright idea guy. I got to wait on the word. Once I wait on the word and you give me the instruction, if you call the play, I'm going to run the play.
Right.
It's just that simple. I'll run the play. I just need for you to tell me what the play is. Because I know that once I run it, you're going to give me the tools that's going to keep me going. And even when it's weak, even when it seems like I can't go no more, the mere fact that I know that you sent me on this assignment, I know I'm going to complete it. And that is it. I'm going to go to the death. So it's when all the distractions were away. But then I found out that it's not the way that I got it, I can't bring it to everybody that way. I almost gotta, I gotta put some cartoon on it, and I gotta sneak God off into you. You know what I mean? So that's where that first book came from. I took characters from the Bible and I just made them street friendly. I was like, you know what? Only thing that I want you to do is this. I want you to, the book I give you is going to be a street novel. But when you go to church and somebody says anything to you or around you about God in the Bible, you'll be familiar with some of those characters.
Right.
And I've done my part. I can't lead you all the way to the gate, but if I can just do my part, if I can do my part, then he'll come over to you, and then you do your part, and he may be touched 7 or 8 times. Right. But I got to do my part. I don't even know what the end look like, but I got to do my part. That's it.
That's awesome. I want to give a quick shout out to Leslie, DeMarcus, Amina, Ashley, and we have a caller on the line. Caller 1924, are you there? Caller 1924, are you there? From New York. Caller from New York. Are you there? Okay, last call. Caller from New York. 1924. Are you there? Okay. We're just gonna wait on the caller right now until they come back. In the meantime, I have a comment I want to make. If you're an educator and you're hearing what's going on right now, and if there are students or if you're a principal and you are frustrated in the midst of your situation, you are hearing right now through the airwaves people that have not only been on the leadership side, but people that have been on the student side and how they got through. If you're a leader, grab hold to these nuggets of how to endure so that you can make an impactful a seed into a young man or a young lady's life. If you hear Danon talk, even in the midst of things that he was doing, he would hear in his mind the voice of Pastor Lockwood. And so that's an impactful thing. You can be away from somebody or something for years, but when they've planted a seed in you and they've spoken to you, when something happens in your life, you will hear that voice again. Just like your mom, you'll hear her voice tell you something when you become an adult, you know, of how to take care of your home or your relationship or whatever it is. It's the same thing. I encourage you not to give up on the students. Don't feel like you have to rush and change school districts because you're in a school district that does not seem to fit what you want to be comfortable with or used to. Allow the Lord to not only challenge you, but allow him to do more with you and take you to a different level in your understanding of the role and the responsibility that God gave you. And so even when I hear you talking about 10 years longer, I mean, how you got stronger within those 10 years. So many of us are in ministry and people don't even grow into their conflict or grow in the midst of their conflict. And here you are. You spent time, 10 years behind bars. You begin to pen your book. You know, you begin to have a winner's mindset, you know, to a point. You still listen to your mother, you know, and you still took those jewels, as you said, so that when you got out, you had your whole jewel backpack ready to roll and ready to hustle and ready to live that triumphant life. And I think that's powerful. And I think that's why we need more speakers as you are, as he is a motivational speaker, to come and talk to people. You don't always need the $1 million speaker, ladies and gentlemen, to come and talk to you, because some people that have not really been in the realness of life can't really give you the real deal or the truth. And so they can't tell your story. So you end up giving a clap, you give a love offering, but your people still aren't saved, delivered, or set free. You have men and women in the congregation that are still going through because they need to hear sometimes from somebody who has actually been there in that trial or that traumatic situation and became triumphant. And so now you motivational speak. Am I correct?
Without a doubt.
That's fantastic. And so is this within the prison system? Is this within the school system?
It's in the school system. It's in the Metro YDC. I was at Lithonia Middle School and we did the career day. Awesome. And while we were doing Career Day, I seen like all the people there who had jobs. The paramedics pulled up. The police department was there. All these fine people. And in my mind, I said, we're asking these kids the wrong questions. So I just stopped. I literally balled up my speech, and I was like, what kind of business do you want to run when you get of age? And we just started talking about that because I believe that to have a dream, to have a vision, that's right. You have that right. I think that if you're working at a job right now, that job, that entity, that was somebody's dream. That was somebody's vision. So I'm working, and I'm supporting your dream, your vision. God gave me the same rights that he gave you. I have the right to have a dream. I have the right to follow through with that dream. And so in my mind, I'm like, well, I don't know how awesome your dream could be, but it could be something that can change the world. I may not be able to change the world, but I can give you the pat on the back that will give you the courage to go ahead and make that move, or maybe not even you. Right. If you have to do it 2 or 3 generations down the line, the fact that we're acknowledging it. So I think that the mindset that some of us have with working a 9 to 5 and getting that pension and doing all this stuff, that's cool. But I think in order to, I found that money affords me opportunities.
Wow.
And I find it's easier for me to have money if I own the company.
That's good. That's good. You know, I want you all to come back because there's so much we did not get to in this 1 hour. And I want those of you that are listening, I want you to be able to contact these 2 gentlemen. Pastor Lockwood, how can they get in touch with you, invite you to speak, invite you for consultation, whatever it is, and also come to the church? How can they get in touch with you?
Well, you can find us at Powerful Truth Sanctuary. We're located in Macon, Georgia. You can find me at Derek B. Lockwood on Facebook. It's important for you to know that Dana will be our speaker this week for Vacation Bible School. We're having a youth explosion on this Friday, and he's going to be part of that youth explosion. So if you're in the Macon area, if you want to make that trip to hear more of his story and to experience what it is to have youth around you that are exploding, if you will, for God, come and see us at, again, Macon, Georgia, Powerful Truth Sanctuary at 3645 Joy Cliff Road, 3645 Joy Cliff Road. You can reach us again at Powerful Truth Sanctuary. We're located on the web, so just check us out. And we're trying to do some great things. I think you change life one life at a time. This is a prime example for me tonight to have this young man doing what he's doing, but also, as he knows, I expect him to pay it forward. And so we want to pay it forward, and we want to do more one life at a time, because that's what God does exponentially. He'll give us the increase if we just continue to invest in lives one life at a time.
Awesome. That's awesome. Mr. Butler, how can we get in touch with you for speaking, engagements?
It's Danon Butler. Everything. Instagram. The website is DAINHENBUTLER.com. I could be reached. Also, if you just want to just catch some of the DVDs or the books, Alto Adjustment is the name of the DVD. It's online. The title of the book is Shawty, SHAWTY, the same word you use every day. That's it. Funtime Moonwalk Rentals. We have discounts for all baby dads on child support. We're trying to help everybody. Let's get it together. Let's get it together. But Danon Butler, that's it.
Awesome, awesome. And you know, this has been an awesome show. We're going to have to do a part 2 of this show. Are you guys willing to come back to the show? We have so much to talk about incorporating all this. I want to just leave you with this, that if you're dealing with a situation and if you maintain the right attitude and press through, like my friend Mr. Butler has pressed through and has shared his testimony, I want you to know that tonight God has stamped you with the time served. Your time has been served. You don't have to worry about those issues anymore. You don't have to worry about those problems. God just wants to see you win. He just wants you to say, you know what? That is not me. I'm going to take the jewels and the nuggets that I've learned from my family, from my teachers, from my educators, from my pastor, and I'm going to make them work for me. I'm going to build myself into a better me. Your time is served. Get out, do great and mighty things. When you lay your head down tonight, don't just begin to dream or sleep. I want you to get in your mind that you don't have to deal with issues anymore. That's going to be your dream. God's going to give you a dream that is going to bless you beyond measure, and you're going to wake up with that winning attitude. Hey, listen, you are listening to the Triumphant Radio Show here at 108 Praise Radio. Our time is up tonight. We're going to do a part 2. We thank you for watching, and we look forward to seeing you next Monday. God bless you, and good night.